I want to first of all thank Wellfield Bookshop for having us here, and we will be having a number of readings. You can ask questions of the readers or generally. There's no problem there at all. I just want to tell you a little bit about the book. Cardiff Writers Circle was founded on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, 1947. So that makes us 25 years younger than the BBC, a year older than Land Rovers, and the same age as the modern states of India and Pakistan. Thought you all wanted to know that.
Yeah.
Literary wise, in 1947, some books were published that you may be familiar with. Streetcar Named Desire, Tennessee Williams. Then All My Sons by Arthur Miller. And Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Things of that nature. And we started. Now, I wasn't at the initial meeting, but I've been to quite a few. And what we're going to do is begin with some readings. So I would like to ask me read. Oh.
Someone's got to go first.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody's going to get sick of hearing this, but it's the only one that I find anybody can relate to. And the boss isn't here, so I can read this. It's called She Said, I Said. She said there was something she wanted to do together. Couldn't do it alone. I said no, didn't fancy that. She said if I loved her, I'd do it with her, for her. Said one of her friends and her partner did it. Would I prefer she found someone else to do it with? And what about that thing she does with me, because I like it even though she hates it? I said all right, we could try it Saturday night. She loved it. I didn't. She insisted we do it again the following night. Loved it even more. So every weekend she did the thing I liked, and I did the thing she liked. Twice. She told her friends what we did. They were jealous because their partners refused to do it with them, for them. She said I should encourage the other husbands, boyfriends, partners, significant others, wives, girlfriends to do the thing. I said that would sound very odd. How was I supposed to know their partners wanted that? It could get physical. Next time we were all together, she told everyone what I did for her. The others laughed, but soon they were all doing it. Had no choice. Well, I was doing it. So now we do this thing for her every weekend, even though she stopped doing the other thing for me. And twice every week together, we watch Strictly, and I watch Doctor Who alone. You're very kind. And if anybody has met my dear wife, they will understand how true that is. I'd like to call upon our good friend and member Nisha, who not only is an excellent writer, she helped, was the major deal in organising this for us. So Nisha, would you please come forward and give us a read? Thank you, Nisha, everyone.
Title of my piece is Silver Laces, and I'll let you guess what those silver laces are, but it took me a while myself to become acquainted and develop a relationship with those silver laces. Arms crossed, Kevin smirks. There's more than one, hun. Cut them all? No, just the front, please. Kevin schedules a follow-up and waves me out. Puffing, my shoulders tense. I guess eloquence is not for all. But then, there wasn't anything wrong with what he said. Kev was being direct. So why and what am I choosing to hide? As thoughts percolate, the antique mirror catches my eye. Pausing, I check myself out. and continue onto the main road, strutting like a peacock, flicking between smiles and frowns, whilst the freshly set curls kiss each cheek with equal affection. Love a day at the salon. Best 45 minutes and clears my head instantly. The few seconds of quiet evaporate at the sound of her voice. Michelle, it's me, Jessica. Gliding the escalator like a swan on heels, she strides towards me, flaunting her ring finger. Sealed it. She buried me in a hug. I give in awkwardly for my hair's sake. Long time. How are you? Married? I shuffle towards the exit. All good. Just back from a conference. Glad for the bank holiday weekend. Flapping her hands, she fusses, mocking my response. I squint, the diamonds dizzying my vision. Always talking about work. Clock's ticking, babe. Kiss some frogs. One'll be a prince. Stroking my hair pitifully, she whispers. They show, you know. Can't hide behind the highlights. Trust me, babe. I'd rather sky jump than trust you, babe. I wanted to scream, but faked a smile instead. My eyes drift to thoughts of college days, travels abroad, and then to the fluttering pages on my coffee table. Marked in bold, the quote reads, "Not everyone has the opportunity to grow old." That's bloody right. My silver laces are a privilege. Richard Gere oozes sexiness in his salt and pepper. I darn sure can rock mine. These laces witnessed my growth, and supported my ambitions. I'm keeping them. Sauntering in, Kevin greets me. Right on time, hun. Cappuccino? Yes, please. The usual today, root touch-up? Yes. See a few whites, hun. Take them off? No, let them blend in. Thank you. And I'd like to pass this on now to Martin.
Thank you, Nisha. I'm going to read a short piece of flash fiction called I Am, and it's sort of inspired or based on the story of a slightly unfortunate lady from France who had a falling out with one of her tenants, who maliciously declared her dead, and the systems somehow accepted this incrementally. I'm sorry, sir. I can't. What? Why not? There's money there. Yes, there's money, all right. Quite a lot, in fact. But the account's frozen. Steve Smith is dead. What do you mean he's dead? I'm sitting here, talking to you. I see you, sir. And we are having a conversation. But you are not the Steve Smith of 19 The Circus. You can't be. The system says he died 2 months ago. His estate is in probate, and his account frozen. Could you possibly be another Steve Smith? It's not exactly an unusual name. This is rubbish. Look at my driver's license. I am the Steve Smith, and I live at that address. You've known me for 20 years. We used to play squash together. It's got to be a mistake. No, sir. The system never makes mistakes. Look, this is a copy of the grant of probate and a letter from the executors. If you were the Steve Smith, I'd be talking to a dead man. And you, sir, are clearly alive. Just a minute. There's no death certificate in your file. You can't decide Steve Smith is dead without that. Yes, that is rather strange, sir. But the absence of a death certificate does not in itself prove a person has not died. I'm sure Alfred the Great didn't have a death certificate. What? What's Alfred the Great got to do with it? He's dead, sir. No doubt about it. This is a nightmare. Last week, my employer stopped my salary, despite me sitting in the office at the time. The week before, I had to prevent someone from fixing for sale signs outside my house. And now I can't even withdraw money from my own account. How can I prove to you that I am Steve Smith, owner of that bank account, and all the money you're holding on to? I think you'll have to prove to the system that you didn't die. Okay, what's the procedure for doing that? There isn't one. Wait, let me guess. Because the system never makes mistakes. That's right, that's correct, sir. Right, that does it. Stick 'em up. Be careful with that gun, sir. You'll never get away with this. You're on CCTV. Your fingerprints everywhere. And I make a very good witness. Ah, that's where you're wrong. I can do anything I like. Police can't arrest a dead man, and he can't be prosecuted. Now, open the safe.
Thanks, Martin. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, interrogations of the office?
Where did you get your inspiration for that?
I read it in a newspaper. I think it might have been The Guardian a couple of years ago, and it's just one of these little quirky little stories papers cover sometimes, and it just stuck with me. I did try to find out more about this woman, but all I could get was versions of that original story. So I don't know if she's still in some sort of undead limbo, or whether they found a way. Apparently, France's bureaucracy is quite famous or notorious, and one of the problems was everyone recognised she was alive, but they couldn't find anyone willing to accept that they had the responsibility to undo her sort of deadness, if that makes sense.
Been there myself. Okay, thanks very much. So, going to ask Steve now to come up, and after Steve, Sisha.
Thank you, Paul. Hi. At the previous event like this, I read the beginning of my anthology story. So I thought today I'd move it on a bit and read the next 2 or 3 pages. It's actually a sequel to a novella that I wrote about 3 years ago, which was about a young school teacher and a pupil falling in love. A few people who read that were extremely kind, and a number of them said, what happened to the couple next? So the story for the anthology was an opportunity to partly answer that. And this takes place 10 years after that original story, and at this stage the ex-teacher, who's called Alice, is about 33, and the ex-pupil, Lewis, is about 25. We're in a crowded restaurant in the south of France, and the narrator has been forced to sit right next to a family with 4 young kids, most of whom, or one at least of whom, has already got mayo splattered all over his face. The parents are a striking looking couple, and the narrator has just learned that the father, Lewis, is an itinerant builder of dry stone walls, and that the family is nomadic and go wherever his work takes them. If anybody is here from the north of England, I have to apologise in advance, because at one stage I do attempt a bit of a Yorkshire accent, so forgive me for that, please. Anyway, the story is called Ithaca. Alice, the mother, explained. Lewis was taught by Luca, a wonderful old guy we met in Croatia. He was over 80 and still dry stone walling. He had been looking for someone he could train up so the craft wouldn't die out. Well, we didn't have anywhere else we needed to be, so we stayed, and Lewis became Luca's pupil. We named our firstborn, indicating mayo chops, Luca, in honour of old Luca. Lewis nodded. It was the least we could do, and it's nice that Luca means he who gives his light to others. And you make a living at it? You'd be surprised. I get commissions from all over. There's so few of us. And, darling, because, like old Luca said, you're a natural. Aye, lass, Yorkshire born and bred, exaggerating his slight northern accent. Like as not, dry stone walls are in my DNA. Putting down a wine glass, Alice added, if it wasn't for old Luca, we wouldn't be here now, or heading to Greece next. Greece? I asked. Lewis was matter of fact. The Heritage Fund is paying me to renew a dry stone revetment that's threatening to collapse and tumble an ancient Byzantine church down into the valley below. Alice came in again, and we're especially excited because the church, she pointed at the cover of my paperback Odyssey that I'd put on the table but hadn't opened, because the church is on Ithaca. Ithaca? Really? Well, perhaps you'll stop your wanderings there and stay there, like Odysseus. Young Luca, wiping mayo from his chin with the back of his hand, shook his head vigorously. That's not right. When Odysseus gets back home, after 10 years fighting the Trojan War, and 10 years voyaging and having adventures, he can't stay in Ithaca. He has to take his oar and travel onwards until he finds a land where the people don't use salt and they don't even know what his oar is. Pausing for breath and to suck a mussel from its shell, he looked across at me. I mean, how weird is that? I think it means his mother laid a hand in his arm. Let's leave the rest of the story for another time, darling. And what do we know about talking with our mouth full? Luca muttered, sorry, but I thought he'd be interested. Oh, I am, I cut in. I've always thought the point of the story was Odysseus' homecoming. End of. Luca rounded his eyes, nut brown like his father's. The best stories always end in a sort of mystery. Do they? I prefer things precise, exact. Lewis's judicious, oh, it takes all sorts, prompted my cautious, well, maybe Luca's right. Perhaps I could do with a bit of mystery in my life. I'll have to think about it. It's not about thinking, Alice's voice soft with encouragement. It's about feeling. I ate the last of my fruit, centred my knife and fork on the plate, and making conversation remarked, you haven't made it easy for yourselves. Chasing the work, Croatia, France, Greece, here, there, everywhere. And with 4 young kids in tow, that must be tough. That's not at all how we look at it, but I understand it wouldn't suit everyone. Her reproof was gentle, but a reproof nonetheless. She was probably a few years older than Lewis, and attractive, even beautiful as she was, I felt you wouldn't want to cross her. Lewis looked at her fondly. Alice is an artist, a good one. She sells her paintings mostly through galleries in Oslo and Helsinki. Alice was modest. I'm just lucky the cold north seems to like my reminders of the warm south. Where'd you go to art school? I asked. She shook her head, blonde locks shimmering. Formal education's not the only way of becoming what you want to be, let alone discovering what you need to be. It was another reproof, and there was more. Oh, I started off as a very good girl, compliant, doing as I was told, first school, then university, then teaching. But I knew I was going nowhere, until her voice warmed. Lewis and I fell in love, and life could never be the same again. We had nothing because we had everything. I waited, but she'd said as much as she was going to. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Saoirse, come up.
Am I reading or am I doing Q&A? Because I can't remember which one I was to do.
Which do you want to do?
Sure, I'll agree with you. And do the Q&A. Okay, cool. Half read the emails.
Go.
Yes. So yes, this is one of my contributions to this lovely collection, and it was written, as you may be able to tell as I read it, during lockdown. This is Heart Buzz. A sidestep, a wide step, a keep your distance stance, a choreography of change in our cautious daily dance. It feels a step too far from where we are at home, when no easy closeness keeps us grounded through this storm. But as the unknown swarms, a warm little buzz, a pollen-covered fuzz catches my ear and eye, and looking to my left I see, nose in nectar nestled, a bustling bumblebee. No world-weary worry weighs down these busy wings, and with the sound, and this bee buzzing sings a song of honey sweetness. And with the sound of her song I'm no longer in a virus-ridden, hunger-bitten, news cycle circus world, but in this moment that unfurled from the pollen-heavy petals of a flower. In this bumble industry there is a stillness, as the storm spreads relentless outside this fleeting floral calm that reassures. One glance left, and I'm reminded that the world is turning, deftly twirling in the dance it always has. Our choreography of change will change again, to match new rhythms or refrains. When it does, I'll hear the echo of a little buzz, and know the heart beats on the same. And I have one other short one, so I'll tell you that. So yes, I have 2 short films in the book, and that was the more serious one, and this other one is the silly one, which is not on the page I thought it was on. Give me a moment. 173, not 73.
You've got the other version of the book.
Yes, yeah. Special edition copy. Either that or I just can't read numbers, one of the two. This is homophoniety. And this came from many interactions on the phone when I first moved here, when I realised that I did have an accent, which I hadn't really noticed until I moved away from home. Talking on the phone, they give us a buzz known lifelong until a different sing-song at the other end can't comprehend yours. But in the then, the here, the when, lilts will always bend to mend gaps in understanding. It's a human thing to story tell how are you? Well, across linguistic lines. These accented attempts are minds of humanity pure, where your words stumble to a spark between 2 new friends. Like trees to thrive, we bend in a breeze of speech. But hold fast against the reach of homophoniety. It doesn't sound like you or me, but a machine-measured, stilted Alexa lexicography, where a glottal stops you getting through the questions on the phone, and kids don't talk like Mam or Dad, but parrot Google home. It's a concrete voice, and its tongue won't bend, its tone won't reach or sway. There's no chance to say in different ways, to bridge the gaps, explore or play. In homophonic monotone there are no nonsense poems, no chance to roam with spontaneity, and make up the words you want to say, like homophoniety. Thank you very much.
Any questions, please? Anybody want to hurl abuse?
No, we don't.
Yeah, we sort of throw a book at
I'll
her.
take rotten tomatoes, but no
I was
eggs.
thinking it's very lyrical and very sort of la-di-da-di-da-di-da, and it's brilliant, and I totally enjoyed that. Brilliant.
She's done it before.
I couldn't do that. You've got a song in your heart.
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah, music as much as words. Yes.
Yeah, it is very nice.
Right. Next up then,
A dance.
we'll have Pamela and then Nick. Pamela,
Okay. What's down here?
what do you have for us, young woman?
Oh, this is a bit of flash fiction because I've been experimenting with little stories, and because this book is commemorating 75 years, I limited myself to 75 words. So I'd gone out with a friend one night and she was complaining she couldn't get a boyfriend, and I got home and I was locked out the house. So here we are. It's called Unlocked Love. Monica swore as she scrambled on her hands and knees looking for a spare key. Locking herself out on a bitter, dark night after another unsuccessful attempt at speed dating increased her frustration. Then her mobile died, leaving her without a torch. Her shrill expletives shrouded despair. Can I help you? Monica gawked at the good-looking man bending over her. The strong light of his mobile illuminated his smiling face. Oh yes, please, she murmured.
Thank you, Pam. I just wanted to say a few other things about this. Interestingly, it celebrates 75 years. There are 75 pieces in it, written by 76 people. But there are a few other groups who've joined with us for this adventure. And just to say, Cardiff Writers Circle, Monday nights, half of which are down at the YMCA on Shakespeare Street, great name for a street, which is off City Road. And I don't know offhand what days the others all meet, but inside the book it's all the details. So easy way to find out. So now there's a young man who's a sometimes actor, sometimes scriptwriter, sometimes poet, sometimes
Never written a script.
sometimes everything. All the time. An extremely good-looking young man, even though he wasn't born in Wales. So, Nick, would you
Don't
please...
hold it against me, will you?
Wouldn't hold anything against you, young man. Please come on up, Nick, and...
So this is called Superstition. My question is this. If I see two magpies, but their number starts to change, am I to meet a girl, and then a boy, find some silver turning gold? Will I see my sorrow on feathered wings take flight, or is superstition folly? If I walk beneath a ladder, but quickly knock on wood, or never break a mirror, but cross upon the stairs, will I simply be avoided by misfortune and surprise? The answer is, I do not know. And perhaps I never will. But this I know for certain, the solitary magpie is rarely all alone, nor is a pair eternal. Sorrow is but fleeting, and sadly so is joy. The one must be endured, that the other can be savoured.
Thank you very much, Nick. Now, I'd like to ask Peter Gaskell if you would please come forth. Now, Peter is sometimes our member. He's also been in Road Writers. Do you frequent anyone at the moment, Peter? Who were misses?
Interesting question.
Who were misses? Yes.
I've the most recent contacts I've had is with A48 really. They're putting on productions. They're putting on I think some of you know this. I think you know, don't you? They take stories from the graves in Kitay's cemetery, and then they perform stories that are written about those gravestones, and that's coming up in June. So I'll be going to that, but I'm not acting in it, and I haven't written for it. Yeah, otherwise I've been a bit fallow, I would say, recently.
Well, Peter played a fair part, as did Pamela, in a walking tour of the city centre we did a little while ago, and that was all fresh writing by various of us, including Peter, and we had the Living Lines writing group and the A48 Theatre Company. Their actors performed it. It was very nice indeed, and you may find bits of it on the website, our website, if you go and have a look. Anyway.
Can I just add to that? Because
Sorry.
the graveyard, the Living Lines in A48,
Yes.
when you write scripts at the grave, they call Graveyard Voices, and one of my scripts has been performed next Tuesday and Thursday. in the
Are you
graveyard.
performing?
No, I'm just hiding behind gravestones.
Oh, right.
Is that Kitay
Next
Cemetery?
Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday, next Sunday afternoon, but all the tickets are sold out.
Is that Kitay
Yeah.
Cemetery?
You could take some.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the tickets have gone actually.
Yes, they have.
Peter,
I was dying to
what
go
do you...
there.
Oh, dear.
You should have said.
Peter,
I'd have dug
what do you have for us?
Right. Well, I got a couple of bits of flash fiction, and I'll start with a longer piece.
which is called Chasing Shadows. Tyres screeching out onto the main road, they sped off in the direction of Mitchelhampton. As she revved her car, Mags gave me a tissue to wipe my eyes. Trust me, Anne, I won't let him get away. Since Paul wouldn't agree to Dad coming to live with us after his operation, I've been anxious and moody. Dad on his own was a risk to himself. Paul's insistence that the district nurse would routinely be monitoring Dad didn't convince me. Though he told me he didn't, it irked me that Paul kept his phone switched off all day. Mags understood. So when she offered to take me out for lunch at the Cat and Mouse, I welcomed such comforting distraction. But there outside the pub was our car, with Paul at the wheel, his mobile phone stuck to his ear and a young woman in the passenger seat. From his quick glance around as he gunned the engine, I felt sure he'd seen me. They were quickly off, then us in hot pursuit. It was hard to stay in sight of them as Paul swerved around any car doing less than the speed limit, even on bends. Was he over the alcohol limit too? Then, without indicating, he pulled off onto a narrow country road. "Slow down, Mags, please," I implored, lurching across the seat as she skidded around bends to be sure of keeping Paul in view. He must have surely known he was being tailed. My shock at our continuing speed wasn't relieved by my admiration of Mags' driving skills. Then, as we were about to take a sharp corner, my ears and stomach were assaulted by a bang of crunching metal and glass. Paul had hit a tractor. I rushed over to open the door as Mags dialed 999. Blood was running from the blonde head of Paul's unconscious passenger, darkening the pale blue of her uniform. Looking at me with incredulity and horror, groaning with pain, Paul was first to find his voice. "I'll stay with her till the ambulance arrives. Mags, you take Anne to her father's at once. He's fallen down the stairs." I gasped. "But you and the nurse at the pub," was all I could stammer. "She lives next door to the pub and rang me after getting a call from Dad. We both tried ringing you." He groaned again. "You really must get a new phone, Anne." And I'll read the one that you were kind enough to award me with the prize of flash fiction for 75 words. It was a real discipline to try and write with that. And this is based on my experience. I was teaching actually asylum seekers at Red Cross in Newport. And I got inspired to write this little piece called Stitched Up. Yara learned embroidery at the refugee camp because creating something beautiful stopped her from thinking too much and calmed her. Selling her skillful work, the charity gave her money to support her sisters still in Syria. Her most beautiful dress yet, this one Yara imagined wearing after she reached Europe. "You said I could sail tomorrow." The man promising her safe sea passage smiled as he folded another of her battered banknotes into his pocket. I don't know how long I've got, but I can start another one, but it's too long to read altogether, so I'll leave on with that.
Yes.
On that note.
We'll call you back if we need.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you run short of readers, something. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay.
Does anyone have any queries? Yes. Peter, by the way, is quite an authority on certain aspects of Cardiff's history.
What history?
Peter is somewhat of an authority on certain aspects of Cardiff's history.
Yes.
For example, how Ivor Bach performed some athletics and violence at Cardiff Castle. So, what I'd like to do now is ask Angela, then Kat.
I've got one poem in the book, if I can find it. Yes, we had at the Writers' Circle, we have poetry competition every year, and I think it was last year we had Mab Jones, and she said everybody should write a poem about daffodils. So when I got home, I think, okay, I will try and write a poem about daffodils. So It's called Daffodils. Angled at the ceiling, trumpet mouths shout at me of cold fields in rows, the unravelling of bulbs to green points for a single purpose. Cut to travel as buds in elastic bands and priced in the supermarket box we met for £1. Here they expand and burst to a sun's corona, beyond the battering of bees, shouting at me with trumpet mouths that they've made it.
Well done.
I've got a short collection of haiku here, so you have to accept that each one is different. Called Spring to Summer. Cherry tree blossoms at the pavement by my door, winter finishing. Gorse in the car park, golden as buttercups, bunting of spring. Cherry petals fall, having waited through winter for one flower burst. White petals falling like snow, summer next. The horse chestnut tree on the corner of the street lights its candles. Lace of wild Cherville decorates the park with embroidery.
Thank you, Angela. If Kat would care to make her way. Kat is sometimes with Cardiff Writers Circle, but you're also with the university group. Would you like to say a little about that, please?
I restarted Creative Writing Society at Cardiff University after COVID. I mean, I know all the groups here were hit quite hard by COVID, and so I thought there's no space for creative writing within the university that's on course, so I'll set up a society, and it's going strong on 3 years next year, so very proud of it. But yes, my piece is one that I wrote, I think, during my exams, when I didn't want to do my exams, so it was done in a bit of a daze at 2 in the morning. And I have lots more time to do that now because I've just graduated. Okay, the bone layers. It's hot. There's a stickiness to the air, half sweet, half threat. And the boys have come to join their fathers in the boneyard. It is this time of the year that the boys age up from play fighting and class scuffles at their schools and take on a trade. There are many new apprentices who are donning their work coats and trowels for the first time. It is easy to forget that construction is a job. It is mindless. It repeats layer upon layer. The mortar is mixed with the sand and water, spooned onto the edge of a trowel, and the mixture patted into an even paste, upon which the long bones will be placed. Many of the men stay until retirement. The grind of the day is something they can teach their hands, the calluses equalling trophies of their great and worthy work. Everard's son is not used to the heat of the day, and hides from the sky underneath his father's coat. Like the other boys, it is his first day. His clothes are ill-fitting, the cuffs hang past his fingertips, and his boots slide loosely around his feet. He and his father have the job of hauling the bones from the stocks and placing them on top of the mortar. Everard's son will lay the corners, his father the connecting walls. A corner piece is the most important part of the house, said his father. For those, each part must be angled just so. It is the biggest job of them all. The boy is given a piece to feel, to see how it weighs in his hands. It's light, easy enough to balance on the crux of a finger, but weighty enough to shatter. The sweat on his palms is enough to slick the white until it shines against his skin. With it is a sensation. He feels it spinning around his head and ears. There's sickness in there, a sweet, heady dancing of his thoughts. He hands it back to his father, the surface leaving a white coating on his palms. The boy looks down at his arm, grabs around the flesh into the harder tissue underneath. It's a straight line. How is it curvy? His father doesn't answer. I can bend the sticks easy, the boy offers. These are so powdery and weird. If you put it on right the first time, you won't have to adjust it. It dries fast. Look, I'll show you. The man scoops a trowel into the mortar and spreads a thick layer onto the bone, like this. He places it down and the wall grows an inch higher. And then you do it again. Again and again until you have a house. When the day is over, Everard's son walks along the docks. The sun hangs sharp orange fingers onto the horizon, its rays spread across the water. It is still hot outside. The scorching heat of a spring day burns the air. It is easier to breathe than earlier, but the warmth still plants an ache in his throat. He has never been this way before. It is a path reserved for only a few. It is usually empty, the ships along the water often deserted. Now he is learning a trade, he can walk where he is allowed. When the boy had peered in before, he had seen farmers brandishing new tools and heavy bags behind them. But now, he walks for a while, counting ripples in the water. When the path stops, there is a left turn and a right, leading to the Haymarket and to the sea. The boy turns around, doubles back down the dockside path. He's gone too far to turn off, so he follows the path beside the water's edge. There's a ferry boat cruising past a small distance away. The boy squints at it. The captain is missing from the cab, but there is a thin trail of steam from the funnel atop it. He stops, pausing until the boat passes the gleam of the sun, and looks again. The boat is large, the same brown as the waveless water. There's a square platform at the back populated by a group of silent figures. Some are lying on their sides, knees splayed out, folded into wordless L shapes. The others are bent, like they are caught in a bow. A few are walking from side to side, fingertips grazing and skimming the floor. They scutter wordlessly, unconscious of Everard's son. A few mad eyes darting to spots in the water. He watches the boat slowly cruise out of sight. The sun is nearly down and the water a drastic orange. When he walks here again, he'll watch out for the boat and the bent double people. Everard's son walks the path home and drinks the soup his mother gives him. To be continued.
Thank you, Cab. Incidentally, that particular piece won our short story prize the year before it went into the book. And got a very good ending. Involves bones. Any questions from anyone?
I was just wondering, Kat, what inspired that story?
Gosh.
She didn't want to do an exam.
I didn't want to do an exam. No, I had I can't say much without giving the end away, but procrastination and reading a lot of, there's a book by Ted Chiang, a collection of stories, I can't remember what it's called, but like dark sci-fi horror. I thought, yeah, let's do something a bit weird to distract myself. But yeah.
Thank you, Cab. Any more? Okay. Just a couple more now. We're going to have Ian, then Jeff. Ian, what do you have for us, young man?
Okay, sorry. Sorry. So this is called Unnecessary Necessary. This is dedicated to two very lucky people here today. We've got a private audience with the Cardiff Writers Circle, the staff behind you for Wellfield Bookshop. Okay, this is called Unnecessary Necessary. An unnecessary, necessary slab of torment and comfort, making me feel guilty for the time I spend with her. Should I be feeling this way, I ask. Yes, she says. She knows the answer to everything. Being smart, I suppose she would. Black and bruised, cracked and hacked, indented in my life, hand and jeans. I feel lost without her, yet shackled yet free to leave whenever I want. How did I ever manage without her, especially in my teens? The keeper of all my memories and witness to private chats. There used to be a silence between us, but now she can talk back. Just to me, I hope, Although I hear spies can listen in, as long as it's not my mother, then I don't really care, I think. A friend and a foe, an enemy of my time and tunnel of escape, the demon who trolls through my input and shows me lands far and warm. She knows it's wet up and cold outside. She's seductive and clever and always on my side. She is a part of my body now, my hands, face and ears. A bit haggard and aged, a phone battling to keep its head high. The time has come and gone, been replaced and outsmarted. A new one I shall buy. My relationship is one that if for one moment I think I've lost her forever, I get sad and panic. That's how much she means to me. Yet I loathe her for making me feel so needy and bad. I dropped her once and spread the already webbed cracked screen. On my laptop I searched for new models. I'm not so stupid as to use my phone. She would break her motherboard heart and would purposely wipe her memory of me and that of her own. She could live without me, but not me without her. We get along fine, and if I did not have one, I would be frowned upon by society. I would end up having just real friends and not know the time or day. I would buy zero-rated hotels, and for train tickets too much I would pay. I'd miss my birthday and that of others. I would not know how many times I am being liked. I would not know if I should be building a nuclear fallout shelter. Okay, yes, I admit it. I love my phone, and most importantly, I can use it to see if I have spinach on my teeth or a boogie on my nose.
Thanks, Ian. Excelente. Going to call Jeff up now. I don't think I've missed anyone out. Please sing out if I have done. But before I go, well, if you come up, please, Jeff, I want to say a huge thank you to Emily and Anthony, who put up with us. And as you can see, they have plenty of books in here, and they're selling them. So you can get away with that. There was one other thing I wanted to do just before Jeff does our closing reading, and that is to ask Karen, would you please come up a moment? Karen is not a member of the circle, but she's actually been instrumental in helping Martin with all of the Project 75 events we have. And on behalf of the circle, signed by myself and Martin, Martin's the one you can read, that's a little something in there as well.
Thank you, wow, thank you very much.
And Karen has a very nice big puppy that she's taking
very
good
preoccupied with. Yeah.
So,
but,
thank you very much.
Thank you. I've hugely enjoyed being a volunteer, and I've made some really great friends. I've had a fabulous time. And I came to you as someone completely unknown. You took a chance on me, particularly Martin and Paul. And I really appreciate that, and I thank you for all the fabulous experiences that I've had along the way of being a volunteer, and I hope you'll allow me to kind of continue even though you don't have any events. Cover any
Charlie, right, Charlie.
No. Save the best till last. What do you have for us?
Best? I don't know about that. Well, I'm going to read When the Daisies Go to Sleep, basically because I was going to read A to Z of the human body, but it takes too long and it's rubbish. So I'll read this. When the Daisies Go to Sleep. I will be there for you forever. By the way, I wrote this for my 3-year-old granddaughter. I will be there for you forever. Whenever you need me, my darling girl. You are the loveliest little person. I feel so privileged to be your granddad, and honoured that you hug me so tightly. As you slip into the slumber's embrace, at that time of the evening, when the daisies go to sleep. You run like the wind through the meadow of my garden, so happy, so free, laughing all the while. Such a joy to be with you, my darling girl. My heart is yours, you melted with your smile. Time when your busy day is over, when tiredness and weariness have come, exactly at that time of the evening when the daisies go to sleep.
Beautiful. Jeff only used to write science fiction novels until he was convinced to try his hand at poetry, and now he can't stop. I want to...
Tried my hand at it, failed.
No, and succeeded in spades. I just want to ask Nisha if you would care to come up and... Sorry, Sid was
Nisha, play on words.
No, I didn't see Saoirse because she was hiding behind Martin.
Yes, I was
very
sitting on the
self-effacing.
ground. Doing poetry.
Saoirse.
Yes,
So did I read it?
So I've been asked to do a bit of a Q&A, but given we're a bit of a gathering of writers, so we don't have a panel and such like, I think it's more of going to be a discussion. So everyone's on the spot, whether you signed up to read or not. But yeah, I suppose given we've got a nice kind of collection of writers from various disciplines and various groups and so forth here, I thought it might be nice to start with a question I've been asked by a few different people lately, people who I've been mentoring, people at events and stuff, of how do you know when a piece is finished. And I know that for me, being part of a writers group really helps with this, and that kind of getting to test out work, not in a formal setting. But yes, so I would like to kind of open up a kind of whole room panel discussion to anyone who might like to chip in on first question of, how do you know when a piece is finished? Many of you have pieces in this book, so all of you have answered this question at some point. I hope. So yes, would anybody like to kind of chip in? Yeah.
I guess what I immediately thought of was when you stop leaving things to people's imaginations in the piece. So if it comes to a point where you're stretching out the narrative of the story, but you're solely telling the story and giving the reader the information and not letting the reader explore the world that you're setting it in, I think you've got to read it to yourself and think, I'm not adding anything that's quality to this piece anymore, I'm just info dumping my own brain onto the page that I know, but I need to let the reader.
I'd like to add to that or expand on it.
I was going to direct it more towards Peter, your 75-word thing. Does that help if you know something? You know, how big did it start off before you kept picking at it, or did it start small and you widened it out?
I first of all wrote it for a website. I forget what it's called, but it was 100 words, and I thought it was a challenge. I've got something I want to use, but can I get it down to 75? And that was the challenge, to get it down to 75, and I did, and I was pleased, obviously, with the result. But having a boundary is a good thing, I think. It disciplines you when you write. But I think initially you have to splurge your thoughts. It's a free-form process to start with, and then you start shaping it. I think it's useful to have a structure to start with, but first draft is always just a rush of thought, and then you prune it back, don't you? And then, it was one of them in there, my long one. I think I sent a revision. I said, can you just change it? Because you just said, we're going to send it to the publisher tomorrow, and it was too late for me to make any changes. And it irritated me that I wasn't happy with it 100%, because with a 75-word one, I was 100% happy. But with a longer one, you're less likely to be fully content, aren't you? And you've just got to draw the line somewhere.
I think drawing
and
the
accept.
line is important. Because I've done that.
Yes, I think that's right. I think probably there's never a right point to stop. I found that I've written something a couple of years ago, and I'm still revisiting it and tweaking it, maybe not changing the length, but a little word here, swapping things around, that sort of thing. And so, I mean, and that, like people really, people never stop changing, and a piece of work, if you allow it to go on, it'll never stop changing. You just, as Pete says, you just got to draw a line, or let someone else tell you, and don't do any more.
I remember the first time I was publishing a book, as somebody who mainly writes for performance, and I perform my work a lot, it changes quite fluidly sometimes, and I remember the first time seeing one of my poems in print and going, oh, it's fixed now, and that was that line drawn for me, that poem was fixed. I still do it slightly differently now when I perform it, but yeah, it's that moment of going, okay, now it's on paper and it's just there. And I think then kind of going on from that, and that kind of thing of what you said, somebody else kind of telling you this is done, this is sorted. And I had this experience recently at Cardiff Writers Circle where I came with a poem and I was like, I think I've overworked this, I can't, it's not right. And I got a couple of little tweaks, and then a real sense of, oh, now this poem is finished, and this works. And it was because of the input of people in the group. So I suppose kind of putting it out again to the group, of what being part of a writer's group means to you, because we have this image of the writer in the garret, and it's one that doesn't suit me at all. I'm far too fond of people watching and drinking coffee. So what to you is the value of being part of a collective or a writer's group, rather than the kind of quite solo pursuit sitting down at the desk and writing?
I think for me it's a safe space to kind of get feedback, be heard, test your ideas, and I love following the camera.
I normally run away. I see it coming and I go, oh no.
So it was that I remember my first few meetings sort of being really quiet, because I started more with blog writing, and everybody else presenting were doing novels and poetry and things like that. But everybody was just so encouraging, and the feedback was so constructive. So I always came back learning something and growing, and I think that was really helpful. So for me, I think that's power in that.
Nice. We should have written that down. That'd be a great little bit for the Cardiff Writers Circle website there. Absolutely. Would anybody else like to add to that? Were you about to say something to that?
Well, yeah, I'm one of the oldest members of the group, and the oldest long-standing. I think I've belonged for about 21, 22 years now. Wow. Yeah, I know.
Straight from university.
Definitely, yes. But I think what it does is that if one's life is busy, but you've got this meeting coming up on Monday, so you will write something for that. It's like a sort of discipline thing. And also, I warn you, as you get older, keep writing, because it will keep your brain going, hopefully, yes. But that's it really, as I said, it's so easy to think, oh, I don't have to write anything this week, but sit down and you do have to write something. It helps.
Building a practice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just out of interest, Angela, do you write every day, or is that regular to you, or is it sort of once a week, or how do you discipline yourself?
I'm sitting at my laptop, and I am concentrating on haiku at the moment, and I'm trying to get really what haiku is about, because I think that it's very easy. You've got 3 lines, and you could write anything. The book has fallen on the floor and I just picked it up. But those 3 lines have got to get the spirit of a haiku, and I'm not completely sure now what that is and whether you've actually got it. So in the morning, having done a few things on emails, I go into Word and I've got the last haiku, and I go through them, changing odd words, perhaps adding one, and I maybe do that last thing at night. But it's just, the longer poems, they take a long time, they really do. So changing a word here, changing a word there, but not even one a week. It's longer than that.
I think one poem a week would be one poem a week would be wonderfully prolific. I do it professionally, and I wish I had one decent poem a week.
And yes, sometimes one will come, and it goes almost immediately.
Yeah,
and you don't know why.
And then it can be 3 weeks of bashing your head against the desk, going, "What are words?" So I suppose that's maybe quite a nice last thought to end on, of And it's a horribly heady, wafty question to ask everybody, and I'd hate anybody who asked me it, so I'm going to ask you all it. What does having a writing practice mean to you? Because it looks very different for different people. I mean, I do it professionally, I do commissions, it has a specific shape for me, but then it has a different shape for Angela or for Martin or whoever. So yes, I'm curious, what does having a writing practice mean to you?
It takes different shapes and forms because for business you're doing like social media blurbs, that kind of.
That's a good point. So many different types
of
writing,
different types of writing, and it takes a different focus. The blog then is more my creative playground. I just write whatever I feel like it. And I think coming to the writer's circle, pieces that I put together, I know I want to take it forward. So it kind of blends in that sense. But a practice, I think a bit of a calendar block in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Would anybody else like to add something, or shall we?
Because it's not just reading, it's having other people listening and commenting on what you've written.
Yes.
Yeah, rather than doing it in isolation. It's such a help.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. You get so caught up in, you've read what you've written so many times as you write it that you start to not see it anymore. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a place where you can share your misery. And then you can't get the right words to put things together. And then when you read things out, people give you feedback. You suddenly think, oh yeah, that wasn't what I was thinking anyway, but great, because then you can go back and start fresh.
It's a lovely sense of kind of solidarity and support, isn't there? Yeah, absolutely.
I think there are probably different things that work for different people, but for me, it's I'm not as regular as I should be, but it's kind of the preparedness to do something at odd times and odd hours. Be ready when you get a little momentary flash of inspiration. You just make sure you've got something to write with. And, at 3 o'clock in the morning, get out of bed and just write those few notes. For me, it's that preparedness.
And that is important. I remember one time in Lidl, I had a biro on with my paper, and so I picked up a Weetabix box and quickly wrote something down because I was like, I need to remember this, I have to do this. And it turned into one of the poems that I've kind of performed the most. But I did kind of write on the Weetabix box. I was like, oh, it looks like I'm buying 24 Weetabix now because there's a poem on it. So yes, carrying a notebook and having things prepared to create that space for yourself is a really good tip. Yeah. Excellent.
I'd like to say something on that, Sisha. Some years ago, my dear wife went on a protracted holiday to celebrate her best friend's birthdays, but 4 of them were off for almost 4 weeks, and I was left alone. And I thought, at last. And I banged out a novel in 4 weeks.
And showing us all up there, Paul.
I thought, there you are. I just put the story down and I checked the word count. It was 140,000 words. And I thought, that's too long. So I hacked at it, got it down to 120, 105. I kept at it. I did 5 full edits and a couple of minor ones. And I got it down to 75,000 words. And I've read through this more times, than any number of things. And then thought, right, I'm ready. And I sent it to an editor. And she sent it back, and there were 3 stupid mistakes on page 1. And I'd been through that a dozen times at least. So the point is, I'd done all of that on my own. And it was, oh, that's fantastic. But it wasn't, because when I went back to it, again, with her verbiage, I thought, how did I miss all this? And that, for me, is the benefit when you come to any writing group and you read your work, you get feedback, constructive. You don't just want matches and petrol, that's the best thing. You want people to say, perhaps if you put that around the other way, it would go better. Oh, yes. But then, you do of course have to have time on your own, Otherwise, you'll never actually write it. It'll just be a group work. But that's what I found. Coming to the circle, I would then read something, and that stamps it, and you can use that approach throughout the rest of the work.
I was hoping, Paul, that the story was going to end, that the professional editor's advice was it needs to be twice as long.
But that is important. Fresh eyes on any piece of work is very important. Yeah, I always need something.
I'm always sort of enjoying. We have this short story adjudication, and the adjudicator then goes on about how to write, how to publishing it, and how to present your manuscript. And it has to be in double spacing and just that, and no typos, or the publisher will chuck it away. And I'm thinking, who is this idiot who won't read something in pencil, even if it's a masterpiece? You know? And I thought, because Colin Dexter, who wrote Inspector Morse, always wrote his manuscript in pencil. Because if you're Colin Dexter, you can do that. But I thought, terribly short-sighted this sort. Some poor bloke who hasn't got a computer and he can't write with pen. That's sad.
How many masterpieces there somewhere in
somewhere
Wellfield
in
had somebody's
the slush pile, yes.
I don't know if you recall, we had a member, older lady who didn't use a computer. And what she used to do, wherever she was, something would strike her and she'd write it down on whatever was to hand, and she was always coming in with a serviette from McDonald's, and she'd used a felt pen or something.
I remember who that was now.
I will say she did once read something written on toilet paper, but she assured us that was because it came to her in Tesco, so that was the nearest thing.
I once woke up with a poem written down my arm that I'd clearly woken up in the middle of the night going, this is a great idea. I wrote it, woke up in the morning and went, this is rubbish. This is nonsense. I'd written it at length on my own arm. It rhymed, but it made no sense.
It's like the idea of having a dream journal. You wake up and you think, I've just had an amazing dream, and you write it down, and then when you come back to it later in the day, you go, what on earth is this?
I once woke up with a piece of paper beside me that just said, eyes in capital letters. I play. What eyes a play ever was, I have no idea, but at 4 in the morning apparently I thought it was wonderful.
Thanks again, Emily and Anthony, thank you so much, and thanks everyone for coming.